Okay, let's do it. So today, I think we're gonna touch on affective realism, which is something that aligns with what we've been saying for a while. So the test here, or like the challenge here that we might want to go in with, is to make sure to pay attention for how affective realism is used to assert some sort of ontological claim. So this is like probably the closest to our account, but it might still be too far. Like it still might be too far into the ambiguity of like an ontological assertion about what is real, right? Like that's the issue at the end of the day with these ideas of realism or idealism. The idea that there is an authority of this, of like the actual status of what is real or what ideas are. So I think we're going to follow that, and then maybe we could continue talking about the roadmap later on. But for now, yeah. For now, let's just get to it. And then I was thinking, so my background here, what I understand is that Lisa Feldman Barrett talks about affective realism in her book, Why Something About Emotions. Lisa Feldman Barrett, How Emotions Are Made, which came out in 2017, so prior to 7.5 Lessons. Handbook of Emotions. When was 7.5 Lessons? 2021. Did she drop 2 books in that same year? It's pretty impressive. So in that case, I'm guessing that she just mentioned it in the book. Like she said this is what it would be like. Or maybe she explored it in studies. Like maybe she published something called using affective realism or introducing affective realism and then talked about it in the book. I don't know. Regardless, I don't think it's that pervasive of a topic. So I think I'm going to Gemini ask, like, what has come of this? Like, has anyone actually taken this and ran? So affective realism. Exploring affective realism and its influence on perception. We like to think that we see the world as it is. Data, as we believe, flows flawlessly from the environment through our senses, sight, smell, sound, taste, and touch, to our brains where we perceive the world in untainted purity. However, this isn't the case. The data flow is far from pure. Internal affect is deeply involved in the perception process. Feelings do much more than influence judgment. Neuroscience and behavioral studies suggest that affective feelings are integral to the brain's internal model and thus perception. Our feelings influence the actual content of what we see or hear, and then obviously when we actually get to the point of like interpreting that at like a more high or frontal cortex level, then that obviously affects our affect, and this is a feedback loop. In psychology, this phenomenon is known as affective realism. We experience supposed facts about the world that in part are created by our feelings. There's also a chance that affective realism is something that was completely around for a while now, and Barrett is just someone who leveraged it. Okay, affective realism is the subjective interpretations we give to data flowing from the environment. Our state of arousal and beliefs of cause of that arousal impacts our interpretation of new information. Okay. I feel like this is a definition of a realism that's very different than the other realisms, but we can go with it. Philosophy as okay, what do we got? Penguin, as I've understood and lived in, means living voluntarily among ice, seeking out everything strange. So far placed under a ban by the colony. Penguin. I'm on screen. Oh, you are on screen? Did I keep that there? What is going on? Yeah, why does the screen look really odd? Oh, wow, you are on screen. What is this? And why is it... Why is it white text? Hi. Let's get a lag. Oh, that's pretty lagged. Does it not update for me? Or am I lower than this? What? Smoke. Fire. Alright. Well, let's get rid of that. Oh, this is the, oh no, this is my entire overlay. Right? Okay, I must have made a mistake. I thought I was playing around with these stream element things, but say one and I'll type it in chat when I hear. One. I'm really trying to see the lag between when it shows up on this and when it shows up on the screen, but it's actually pretty similar. Okay, here we go. We got, how many of these do we have? All right, what is this? First of all, we have a README. Let's get rid of that. We've got a multi-channel chat. And why is this? Could we get this to be like? I'd have to save it, right? What am I moving around here? Okay, we got another onion helmet. Oh, it says onion helmet 1. Oh, okay, that's because that's what you said. I see. Let's get rid of that one. This one, I don't understand. Oh, there we go. Did that work? How's it going, Daniel End? Oh, I guess it's clearing them. And then what is, this is supposed to be a view counter and it's saying 1. But don't we have 2 viewers? So why is this not updating? What is going on? And also, if I save this, shouldn't it be up top? Oh, it is up top. Oh, it's in the corner. Okay, we got to get rid of that. But then, yeah, this chat. Oh, I see. It's just gonna be there. Right, it's just gonna be on the screen. Like if I save this, that should get moved. So even if we're on something else entirely, if you were to say something, it should, yeah, it just kind of shows up there. Nice. I don't know. How does you see the issue with this type of setup is that there's nowhere on the screen usually that's safe. There's nowhere that's a clear space. So I don't know if that's something that is actually useful for our stream. The other thing I noticed, I was just looking at other people's streams, and a lot of people actually just do what I do right here. I thought this was scuffed, but this is actually what a lot of people do, where they just have a camera over their screen and without like an overlay. Granted, I'm guessing they have scenes where they can get to an overlay easily, but that's not something that seems to be like a standard. This is like 90% of streams. Okay. Yeah, but the question is, should we have the chat? I just don't think it's feasible here because we don't have clear space usually. Yo, Energy Daunter, what's good? Text is kind of fine anywhere since it's not really opaque as such, but I'd probably need a background with lower opacity. Yeah, we should if we did that. Oh, that's right. We could get, we could do this on a white background with low opacity, right? This is less opaque. Okay. Or more opaque. So what does that look like? I have some questions related to physics and philosophy, if that's okay. We could definitely give it a go. Okay, I gotta get to a different screen. So that's all right. Actually, you know what? This needs to be the. Okay. Now, what if I just had this all like next to my Where's Ivan? We need Ivan. Oh no, okay, so that's gonna get over. Alright, what about here? I can't believe that I don't show up on this thing. Unless I do? No, I don't. What's my perspective? Oh, okay, wait. Do I believe in substantivism or relationalism when it comes to space and time? Okay. Okay. Why does this seem like it's very impossible to see? Am I going crazy? Oh, it shows up there. I see. Okay. So we're gonna need a 1 second, Energy Daunter. We gotta fix this up. So we need to go up above this, and we're gonna need to be like here, and we're gonna need to make the font much smaller. Like, I don't know, 18. How about that? Someone fire off a few words. Must be an ignore list somewhere. Usually is one with bots defaulted. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna. Okay, so that's a little bit to the. We have to go a little bit to the right now. All right, can we get this guy out of here? Was that way too far? I think whenever I. Oh no, we're just about there. It's still very difficult to see, but we can make it wider. And we can make the font be medium. And we can go up to 20, maybe. And then how are we looking for the height of that? I guess we won't know. All right, I might need a few more words. The quick onion jumps over the lazy dog. Oh, it's just a little to the... Okay, width-wise, we're probably fine. We just need it. We need more white. And we need a slight move to the right. And we need maybe... Oh, this needs to be white. What is happening? There we go. That should do it. Maybe. Ish. We could also just make it darker. Like this might actually get really tough if the left side was more light, but that's gonna be pretty good. All right, well, let's test it. Let's test it out. Hello, it is me. Okay. We need two. Do I still have this? Yes. Can you explain, differentiate? Feels Pumpkin Man is a better Twitch TV emote. Nice. This doesn't really look great though. Wonder if it should be off-white. Off-white, not opaque at all. I'm sorry, completely opaque. And all right, that's the next test. Okay, what do we got? This is a foundational debate in the philosophy of physics concerning the ontological status of space-time. The ontological status of space-time. The distinction hinges on whether space and time exist independently of physical objects or if they are merely descriptions of how objects interact. Whoa. Okay, my understanding is that we don't know either, right? Like, so always the question at this point is which semantic framing are we more allowed to like follow? Like, which one is more apt given what we know about the physics? And so substantivism, substantivalism, the container view. Space and time are fundamental substances or entities that exist in their own right. Space would exist even if the universe were completely empty of matter and energy. The geometric structure belongs to the space-time manifold itself. And then relationalism, the dependency view. Space and time do not exist as independent entities. They are merely the system of spatial and temporal relations between material objects. And then, yeah, the tricky thing is, like, we really can't, like space and time are interpretations from us. You know, there's like talk about more dimensions than you know, we can obviously interpret, which just kind of shows the limitations of our intuitive perspective here. And yeah, like it's almost weird to be. I think that this might be more inappropriate substantivalism. But then, is this one also inappropriate? Is a convenient way to describe the behavior and relations of matter fields. Newton versus Leibniz. Oh man. Newton argued that relationalism fails to explain inertia. If all motion is relative, we cannot distinguish who is really moving. However, we can feel forces when we accelerate. Yeah, but who cares what we feel? If you spin a bucket of water, the bucket eventually curves up the sides due to centrifugal force. The water is not spinning relative to the bucket. It is spinning relative to absolute space. Therefore, space must exist as a reference. The Leibniz argument. Principle of sufficient reason. Argue that substantivalism leads to metaphysical absurdities, specifically violating the principle of sufficient reason. Nothing happens without a reason. If space is a container, okay. I feel like this is just not a debate worth having, perhaps, unless there's some Okay, that's the question. Like, what does our most contemporary understanding of physics tell us about which is more apt, not necessarily right, but what we can be more confident in with what we know, given what we know. Okay. Another option is to have the background opacity instead as text shadow. At least in typical web stuff, don't know if that's an option for the widget. So, okay, to have the background opacity as text shadow. Do we have that luxury? I'm not quite sure what that looks like. So background. Animations, fade, nickname color. Same as text, that's gonna make it just all black, right? I don't think we want that. Is that what we got? Yeah. I don't see the option there, I see. Ignored users, stream elements, other bot. Who is other bot? Or is that all other bots? Hide lines starting with that comma, yes. Hide after that many seconds. Message limit 4. Just like that is okay. The limits of my language. It's victim time. Who cares what we feel? True. The PSR is kind of interesting. It does lead to modal collapse. And PSR is... Was that what we were just talking about? PSR is one of these. I asked a question related to probability theory. All right, we can jump to that. I'm just curious, is there an answer to this? Our most contemporary, specifically from the frontiers of quantum gravity and quantum field theory, suggests that relationalism is the more apt framework. All right, well that's, yeah, I don't know any of this stuff like deep, but I would go where this is telling me. So the official tentative answer is relationalism. What was the second question? All right. Common cause principle in probability theory. I feel like 4 messages is not that many. So it's going to just keep the messages. Wait, what just happened? Why does the... Why is it bringing it upwards? Okay. Yeah, I think we should have a duration limit, maybe like 20 seconds or so. I don't know any of these. Secondary channel. That's nice. Rotate in. Roll in. All right. The common cause principle is a rule of inference intended to explain improbable coincidences. It serves as a bridge between probability theory and causality. If two events are correlated and neither causes the other, there must be a third event that explains the correlation. Okay. I guess I don't understand these questions where it's like, what's my perspective on it? Like that seems logical. Where's the speculation here? Oh, do I agree with it? I mean, that sounds right. Usually if there's and neither causes the other, then there must be a third. I mean, perhaps it's not a third event. Like, you know, perhaps we shouldn't think of this as like there has to be a like specific events that we can think of, but perhaps it's more so a interpretation issue. Like you're interpreting correlations when perhaps if you had a different perspective on what the system is entirely, then you would be able to find a more elegant causal relationship. But yeah, I don't know where else to go with that. It's pretty. It seems fine. The illegal move, quantum mechanics. Given your interest in the limits of what we can believe, this is the most important part. The common cause principle is false in quantum mechanics. Well, only if. Okay, that we entangle two particles and send them to opposite ends of the galaxy. We measure them. Their measurements are perfectly correlated. They are too far away for the signal. Yeah, we're just looking at spooky action at a distance. Yeah, we've talked about quantum mechanics. There's theories in quantum physics that make sense of spooky action at a distance and determinism. And there was one more thing, but yeah. All right, I'm gonna call it for this string. All right, affective realism. We create internal working models of the world. These models are the internal mental representations we create of elements in our environment through repeated exposure. These representations become the models we use when interpreting new experiences. Our internal working models are not impenetrable forces, but creations in our unconscious world, contributing to the eventual unified conscious experience. Okay. Raw data from the environment is processed together with past experiences and current feeling, affects to create a conscious interpretation of an event in the environment. Recent discoveries in neuroscience reveal that the human brain is creating a unified conscious experience, integrating all sources of sensation, both from inside the body and from without, with limbic circuitry as the driver. All right, experience, affective realism, or facts about the world. The key takeaway from the concept of affective realism is that our experience of the world is different than the raw facts. So this is a tricky thing. It's purporting to believe that there's raw facts. And if we take like a strict affective realism stance, I don't think that's allowed. But the untainted data is infused with emotions, beliefs, and other unassociated factors before it breaks through to conscious contemplations. The sky as we perceive it is blue, yet in reality the sky is not blue. The perception of blueness is the reflections casting blueness on the sky. The same is true for our perceptions of the world. Our perceptions are not facts, but the final construction, stemming from the reflections of other elements, creating what we perceive to be reality. Emotions play a large role in the final representation experienced in consciousness. If a loud thump in the night wakes us from our sleep, our biological system jumps to high alert. The subsequent normal creaks and sounds of a house change in nature. The creak that we typically ignore, not even significant enough to register in consciousness, sounds like footsteps on the stairs. We are experiencing affective realism. What is going on with the writing here? All right, incidental affect. Related beliefs that evoke emotion about an object, often are a significant source influencing our perception. For example, a history of traumatic connections. We see a neutral or positive relationship behavior, but infuse it with a distressed past. Okay, we must keep affective realism in check. Although affective realism occurs unconsciously, we can spot its presence. Lisa Feldman Barrett teaches that we can recognize affective realism by its effects. Anytime you have a gut feeling that you know something to be true, that's affective realism. When you hear some news or read a story that you immediately believe, that's affective realism too. Or if you are immediately dismissive of a message or even dislike the messenger, that is also affective realism. We all like things that support our beliefs and usually dislike things that violate our beliefs. She warns that affective realism, when left unchecked, leads people to be dead certain and inflexible. However, we can protect against misattribution of affect by understanding its presence. When possible, we should catch judgments and perceptions that wrongfully project inner states on innocent objects. This may require suspending judgment until a difficult mood has passed or until we collect more data. So this is, she just beat me to the punch because this is exactly what we write in the document here. Generally, it helps to recruit the observations of others since our individual perceptions could be erroneous, and whether the issue has to do with the approach of a marauding leopard or the possibility of a financial downturn, the more information we can gather, the better off we are. There are times when we must trust the machinery in our heads. Quickness of action matters more than correctness of interpretation. However, many times this is not the case. We have time to check for correctness, utilizing many sources to identify misattributions, invading biases, and pesky emotions. We can mitigate the harmful impacts of affective realism, but only when we purposely choose to do so. That's the point. The purposely choose to do so. This is what we've called deliberate reflection, and that's what. So, this is our whole part 2 as well. Practical levers of our agency. Deliberate reflections, a huge deal. The fact that we could purposely pay attention to something and do something in response to some heuristic. Then, this is just what we've been talking about, all these conditions underlying even that experience. What's drawing our attention, what's giving us motivation, this is dopamine, this is attention in general, this is focus, reward, etc. Then we got to get into emotional regulation. This is more like more complex emotions, probably more like emotions about anxiety. So these are like the down effects of the biological conditions that we talk about, which are the most fundamental things. Then we get here, cognitive function. This is just this is a high. We've gone even higher up, and now we can see, what is involved in procrastination. What kind of emotional regulation can we do to get past procrastination? And then, you could go down 2 layers, like what is involved in that, like why are we procrastinating, and, how does the emotional regulation strategies affect the stuff that's at the biological conditioning level, etc. And all this requires that deliberate reflection, us to actually to understand that we're experiencing a certain emotion and then to do something about it. Okay. I don't think I understood the point of the blueness thing. That's a well-known optical effect. What was the article trying to say there? I was trying to say that, like if we're trying to think of like some, like source of ontology about what things are, like what is, we would say that we can't say that the sky is blue in some like external absolute sense, because that's just something that's subjective fundamentally. Now the weird thing that this paper, or that this writing is doing, is it's holding out for the possibility of there being some ontological authority that does tell you that a sky is actually composed of this, and a sky is actually not blue, and like I would say that's as inappropriate as saying that the sky is blue. At the end of the day, there's just the experience of of facts. There's just the experience of facts. And it feels as though these things are objective, separate from our subjective experience. But does the sun revolve around the earth objectively in your view? Does the sun revolve around the earth objectively? Okay, if we're gonna have if we're having a discussion about whether the sun or the earth revolves around each other, then like the only context I would even entertain that question would be in physics, and we would say that the sun most certainly does not revolve around the earth. The earth revolves around the sun. Holding myself to not, so it's not, I'm not trying to like say that there's this trick about like who's the perspective, like it's literally that this idea of facts is something that we experience. We feel them. They're full of affective information that we aren't always cognizant of. Holding myself to not paste that one Wittgenstein quote about the sun during this conversation with Anscombe. What did he say about the sun? Okay, is the earth revolving around the sun an absolute fact? I would say that it is a fact in physics, or like it's a, when we're talking in our like regular outside settings, like I would say that it is true that the earth revolves around the sun, just like I would say that it's true that that's the sky. Or I would say it's true that the sky is blue, even though we know that, physics tells you, the sky is actually not blue in some sense. But like in different contexts, there's different standards for what is true in that sense. But we just have to be clear about what standard we're living up to when we say these things. So like, you could argue that, I could argue that in the context of physics, this is not a phone. This is a bunch of subatomic particles and energy and stuff like that. But it's like, at what context are we talking about? So when I say all this stuff on this channel, I'm really trying to like just speak at like the philosophical bedrock here. Like, this isn't how I would speak, when I'm talking to my teacher in college, or talk to my parents, or talk to someone I just, met, and we're talking about the weather, Tell me, Wittgenstein once asked a friend, why do people always say it was natural for man to assume that the sun went around the earth rather than that the earth was rotating? His friend replied, well, obviously because it looks as though the sun is going around the earth. Wittgenstein responded, well, what would it have looked like if it had looked as though the earth was rotating? Very true. And that's the point. Without the possibility of that being an option, no one thinks of it. And when I say without the possibility, I mean like no one thought of that possibility. Now you're thinking with mereological nihilism. Oh no. We have to get the pen. I already forget mereological nihilism. Is the metaphysical view that no composite objects exist. Once again, it's what I'm trying to get at is that assertions about what does or does not exist is not the way to go. I keep saying, like, I seriously believe that, is that Alex O'Connor, was Alex O'Connor on this page? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Why objects don't exist.
Do you think that
9 months ago? Also applied to the existence of persons, or okay. Let's get our. Sorry, Alex. Explores mereological nihilism, the philosophical idea that objects do not truly exist as distinct entities. The speaker argues that the distinctions between objects like a glass or a car are merely mental constructs we impose on pre-existing matter. When a new object is created, no new matter comes into existence. Rather, existing matter is simply rearranged and given a label. The speaker then applies this concept to the existence of persons, raising the question of whether our minds are truly distinct if material objects are not. I feel like he's, in this case, he like set up a maze and now he's lost in the maze. Yeah, the issue is entertaining any notion about. Oh, did I lose it? Yeah, any notion about, that like objects do or don't exist, or categories, like we have to get out of this space where we have to commit to some assertion about whether something exists or not. That's like the issue here. All what we have is each person has their own subjective understanding. Our understandings are pretty similar in the sense that we each learned similar norms about words and what we can say and what that might mean. But what that might mean, like, plays itself out in a very social and physical sense. Like, when I think of the implications of something, it's very much a embodied sense of what that means for me, even if I don't think it's that way. Like our body is guiding our thoughts. That's kind of the whole idea of affective realism. There's all kinds of studies that show that you'll be more, I don't know, just showing how irrational our rational thinking is. And yeah, the point there is that what ends up feeling true for each of us, first of all, is often different in many ways. But two, it's literally just the experience. It's just an experience of feeling this thing is true, and it's an experience that's filled with, it feels like it's filled with a ton of significance. And that's because there's a lot of information in our memory that these experiences are leveraging to create a holistic feeling of this thing being true and this thing meaning something that has a ton of externalities. All right, welcome back, David Hume. What was David Hume all about? But yeah, I definitely I wouldn't commit to any type of nihilism, because that's playing the same, or that's making the same error, almost in an ironic way. It's like, nihilism is asserting something about truth while saying that nothing, nothing could be true. So it's already created a paradox against itself. It's contradicted itself. That reason is slave to the passions. Right? Yeah, I guess it depends what we mean by passions. Reason is slave to allostasis, body budgeting, all the boring terms that make up, our most underlying biology and processes. He wrote in the 18th century. Yeah, I mean, that is, that's pretty good to write that in the 18th century. Granted, I think we heard that someone was writing about this type of thing like back in Greece, ancient Greece. So 18th century. It's pretty good. I'll give it to him though. All right, associated concepts. A few words by Psychology Fanatic. All right, I think I'm done with this one. There was only one other, not there was only, but I think there's a lot of different people talking about this one thing, but then there was a Medium article. This one seems, oh, I'm not even allowed to read it. Let's get out of here. Okay. What, can you give me a brief history on affective realism? The glials and microgliers glutamating. Who are the glials? Okay, we should also we also have to start this markdown stuff. Best markdown editor app. Typora all day, hands down, bar none. I've written specifically about how much I enjoyed Typora. You really enjoy. Is this using Typora? Oh, this is actually pretty nice. Okay, Typora versus Obsidian. Let's go. Ooh, feedback. Why I'm choosing. Ooh, we got two sides. Let's just get a Gemini thing going where it's like, can you help me decide on a markdown editor? Ideally, I don't really. Actually, no. I'll just say that. Okay, affective realism is a term primarily associated with the neuroscientist and psychologist Lisa Feldman Barrett and her theory of constructed emotion. It refers to the phenomenon where your brain uses your internal feelings, affect, as evidence to construct your perception of reality. In simpler terms, you don't just feel emotions about what you see, your feelings actually help determine what you see. A brief history of the concept. While the term affective realism is relatively modern, popularized in the 2010s, the history of the idea that we do not see the world objectively, but rather through the lens of our internal senses, internal states, traces back through several major shifts in psychology. All right, so this isn't going back to Greece, ancient Greece, but I'll take it. Before the term existed, the core idea was explored by the New Look school of psychology, led by researchers like Jerome Bruner. They argued that perception was not a passive camera snapping photos of the world, but an active process shaped by the viewer's needs and values. So this is the intuition we get at through our phenomenology. How it seems like the world manifests itself in such a way that it, I guess, towards our concerns and our goals and our engagements. All right, the classical view era. For much of the late 20th century, psychology was dominated by the classical view of emotion. This view held that emotions were distinct hardwired circuits that triggered reactions after we perceived something. In this model, thinking, cognition, and feeling emotion were seen as separate battling forces. This is also when the triune brain myth was huge, and we just didn't realize how much this stuff was wrong. The affect as information bridge. Psychologists Schwarz and Clore developed the affect as information theory. They demonstrated that people use their current mood as a shortcut for making judgments. People report lower life satisfaction on rainy days because they misattribute the gloominess of the weather to their general life outlook. This was still mostly about judgment, how you decide, not necessarily perception, what you physically see. The modern era. Damasio's better get a shout out here. Lisa Feldman Barrett coined and popularized the specific term affective realism to describe a more radical neurological reality. Drawing on predictive coding and neuroscience, she argued that the brain is a predictive engine, not a reactive one. The brain constantly predicts what is happening outside the skull. To do this, it uses interoception, sensations from inside your body like heartbeat and glucose levels. Barrett argued that affect, the general sense of pleasantness / unpleasantness and arousal, so this is valence, and this is like the magnitude. So valence is in like good or bad, and then by how much, that's arousal, is not a reaction to the world, but a basic property of consciousness that the brain uses to make sense of sensory data. If your body budget is depleted, you are tired / hungry, your brain predicts threat or negativity to explain that bodily sensation. You might literally see a neutral face as scowling or hear a neutral tone as aggressive. The feeling constructs the reality. Okay. Has anyone taken this and ran with it? Are there other philosophers that are following up with this? What is the modern state of affective realism? 2026. Okay. I don't know if I can glutamate tonight. I'm kind of tired. It takes a lot out of you, you know? All right, psychology, not gonna work here. Jemmy, you gotta skip to post 2010. True. Oh, true, right? What was it? It was like 2014? What was the reckoning year? All right, as of early 2026, the concept of affective realism is not just settled science that people are quietly using. It is currently the battleground for a major paradigm war in psychology and neuroscience. Right, to answer your specific question, yes, people have run with it, but perhaps the most aggressive runner is still Lisa Feldman Barrett herself, who has expanded that concept into a broader philosophical framework called relational realism. Whoa, relational realism. She's putting her hand out for Hegel. What's going on here? Perhaps I'm Lisa Feldman Barrett's mascot cheerleader over here. All right, the modern state, incommensurate paradigms. The current state is defined by a refusal to compromise. In 2025, a major academic skirmish occurred. What? When did this happen? The attempted truce. A group of researchers attempted to merge the old classical view with Lisa Feldman Barrett's constructed emotion. They proposed a compromise. Perhaps emotions are real biological states, but feelings are constructed interpretations. Okay, just seems like a semantic spat. It doesn't really matter what. I guess this is more of a question about consciousness, right? About what is happening at the point that someone's conscious of the interpretation. No, okay. They are trying to compromise with something that is actually not what Lisa Feldman Barrett's trying to get at. I think they're trying to say that emotions are real biological states, but feelings are the constructed interpretations we have about those things. But Lisa Feldman Barrett's trying to say that these original emotions are literally predictive, or they're effects of prediction, in the sense that we will feel a heartbeat before we actually get our heartbeat. Actually, we will feel a rising heartbeat before our heartbeat actually rises. It predicts that change so that we can react to it quicker than we can actually make the heart beat faster. We still need the heart to beat faster for so many other reasons. Like, we need to get our body in gear for what we're reacting to, but it's actually beneficial to us to get our brain to react to the heart rising quicker than the heart rising. All right. Perception plus emotion plus memory equals intuition? Question mark. Ooh, that's a good question. Perception plus emotion plus memory. Kind of. There's just going to be a lot of the embodied cognition sticklers and the predictive processing sticklers are going to be a little upset about disconnecting these. Yo, Dharmadam, what's good? So like, the idea that there's perception without memory is already like those two are already coupled. And then the other thing is the idea that there's emotion without memory. That's all, like, you know, depending on what we're getting at with memory. Like, so all three of those, I mean, you could say plus, you know, perception plus emotion plus memory, in the sense that they're all like part of the same thing. But what is good? Dharmanam, I listened to that song and I really enjoyed it. I thought that was awesome. That was a nice, chill journey. And yeah, I was pretty stoked about it. I gotta check out. I didn't realize because I was searching. By the way, everyone, check out Dime Rocks. I was searching on, and I found you on Spotify. So I'll I think I just added a couple of those albums to my library, but I have to actually listen to them. So usually what I do is I add albums to my library that are like now in a waiting list of albums that I got to listen to. But unfortunately, in the past year, I've been doing more Spotify Discover than albums, but I really should do both. No emotion without memory. That's a good shout. I made a big loop of like 20 repetitive melodies and just mixed and matched them for that track. Yeah, I mean it was cool to just like it just like kind of kept developing. Like it was always moving in a way. And one of the so like I don't know, I would probably identify my favorite artist right now is JPEG Mafia, and one thing about his music is it feels like it's alive. Like the instrumentals feel alive. They're just that dynamic. It's never like a repetitive type of thing going on. It's always moving in some interesting way. Yeah, I'm all about that. Oh, and I'm all about it. So when I would produce, I love bells and like synth bells, so I got a kick out of that. I abused synth bells and reverb and shit like that. All right, do you enjoy music by Simon and Garfunkel? Out of curiosity, I think I like all the songs. I know of them, but I haven't like listened to them. Like I remember them from like stuff my dad would listen to, but I gotta actually listen to more. On the quotes made into AI rap. That'd be great. Watch out for the mixtape. Very nice. Okay, why is my chat thing now really skinny? Okay. So we had this attempted truce. What happened after this? Okay, so Darmadam, we're looking at affective realism, which is I guess like a somewhat of a philosophical stance based on Lisa Feldman. So this is Lisa Feldman Barrett's stuff. The author, who we were reading, that 7.5 lessons about the brain. And I guess in her other book, she coined this phrase, or somewhere else she coined that phrase. But yeah, I was following up on this because it's somewhat close to the stuff that I usually talk about, and I guess I'm in her camp somewhat, but I'm kind of curious where this term has gone. Like what is the update? What is the 2026 update of whether or not people are using this? Are they following it? Like, what are people thinking about affective realism? And so we saw that she has expanded the concept into a broader framework called relational realism. And then we got to the modern state, and we saw that there was an attempted truce. And then a skirmish occurred. So it kind of got a little crazy here. Where will Simon and Garfunkel appear in the document? That's a good question. I don't think any artist is going to appear in the document. Any music artist. I could be wrong about that. Corpus callosum over troubled waters. Abhidharma theory. Ask how affective realism does. Okay, watch out for the mixtape. All right. So the rebuttal, Barrett and her colleagues released a scorching rebuttal titled "More Than a Feeling." Oh, that's okay. Right when I said that there's not going to be a music reference in the document. They argued that you cannot combine the two. They doubled down on the claim that there are no objective emotional circuits in the brain to begin with. this was a antiquated view, that there was just like emotion circuits and they were only dealing with that. The tricky part is that there are circuits that deal with releasing neuromodulators that affect like what we feel in a very distributed way, and the question is, where is the emotion there? Like, is it, it's almost like, where is consciousness? You'd have to point to a distributed system, a network of activity to point out where the emotion is. Now we can see obviously that there's parts of the brain that are integral in like you could say that they're a catalyst for this event. However, there's always the question of like, what actually starts the event, because even those parts of the brain are only reacting to other signals that hit it. So where does the emotion start and where does it end? So they insist that the two theories are incommensurate. You have to pick one. This is so funny that there was an attempted truce. You see that? I think this attempted truce like just misses the point, and then this is pretty funny. Our conclusion for you: you are allowed to think of affective realism as a dominant, rigorous framework, but you must recognize it is currently actively destroying the middle ground. It forces a choice between emotions happen to you and emotions are made by you. Who is running with it? While Barrett remains the primary architect, the baton has been picked up in 3 specific domains. The philosophers' relational realism. Barrett and philosophers aligning with predictive processing like Metzinger and Mark Miller have pushed affective realism into a broader ontology called relational realism. The idea redness is not in the apple. Redness is not in your brain. Redness is the interaction between the apple's light waves and your brain's predictions. The expansion. They're applying this to everything, not just emotion. They argue that all reality, biological, social, and physical, is transactionally constructed. In this view, a virus is real, but its definition as a threat or pandemic is a socially constructed reality that changes how the biology actually functions by changing human behavior. So yeah, I always would say, I would go even crazier, and I would say like what does it mean for the virus to be real? Is that not simply just a interpretation of what of our predictive models and the matter that the matter and energy that interface our brain and body? Okay, the AI and robotics sector, this is where the concept is being operationalized. In late 2025, researchers began publishing work on AI frameworks that mirror physiological interoception. Instead of programming AI to detect anger, classifying a scowling face, they are trying to build AI that constructs emotion concepts based on internal data streams and external sensors. They are running with the idea that intelligence requires a body budget to function correctly. All right. The critics, the police shooting debate, philosophers and ethicists are examining affective realism's legal implications. If affective realism is true, if a police officer in a high arousal state literally sees a gun instead of a wallet because their brain predicted it, because that's how it works, does that absolve them of blame? Bum, bum, bum. It depends how much training they got. All right, the pushback. Philosophers are arguing against this interpretation. They suggest that while affective realism explains why the error happens, it doesn't excuse it. Rather, it shifts the responsibility to the training of the prediction loop. Hey, look at that. You are responsible for the concepts your brain has learned to predict. Right, so in many cases, when thinking about things that other people in the world believe or do, I like to think that we can, on one hand, empathize with them. Like, we understand why they would experience the world in that way through these frameworks. Like, we could see that it really does matter how someone's brought up, what their early development is like, the types of social groups they're still in, their information diet, their other habits, good or bad. But at the same time, we can empathize, but we ought not sympathize about things that have negative effects on other people. So, if someone is more likely to commit a crime because they are high in disagreeableness, like, we can empathize with the fact that they didn't deserve that hand, but we can't sympathize. Like, we can't just let it go because we do need to punish crime, because of the other effects that it has on the society. That would be the argument. I like to split that into moral responsibility and causal responsibility, since determinism. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it's like there's a moral responsibility to. Yeah, the issue is, like, some people just don't understand. Like, imagine that they're ignorant of this extra context that you have about the situation. Are these does 200? I'm sorry. Does 20 actually mean like 20, like something smaller than 20 seconds? Hide after seconds. I thought your message just went away in like 2 seconds. Why does this seem like, or am I going crazy? Maybe we are. Maybe it is actually 20 seconds, but. And why is it so high up now? What is going on? Shouldn't it just be right here? Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. And then it's getting rid of my. This is just a terrible software. Oh, I might have to switch out of Stream Elements. I'm so unimpressed by Stream Elements. This is crazy. Okay. All right, we're running with it. Yeah, maybe I'll just put that up to 30, or maybe 40. That'll be fine. I might just get rid of it. Also, it's probably not necessary. Also, I could always do that thing where you just I just take my chat and I put it into put it on my screen if I needed to actually have a chat on my screen. Okay, so some dudes said they can't find emotion in the brain. It's not that, like. So, I guess first of all, some dude is in Lisa Feldman Barrett. Kind of said that it's more so. What did she say? That you can't. There are no objective emotion circuits in the brain to begin with. So the circuits that we thought were emotion, like emotion circuits, like the limbic system in that antiquated triune brain view, we found are actually involved in much more than emotions. And we've also found that other parts of the brain are very much involved with emotions as well, and also being involved with higher order thinking and all kinds of other types of regulations. The issue is that emotions are distributed in the brain, as well as a lot of other mechanisms. Like, as we saw in the 7.5 lessons about the brain, different parts of the brain have multiple functions. It's not, they're not just for one thing. It's not like there's a part of the brain that just says, like, sadness. It's like sadness is affected by a lot of stuff. It's a mix of signals propagating across the brain, chemicals being released across the brain, these things affecting changes in your body, and then also there's like the interoception, the feeling or the sensing of the different body state that you just created, and then also the prediction of that, as I said earlier. So it's distributed everywhere. I remember Sam saying everything is distributed everywhere. Yeah, I think that's like the contemporary view. So if obviously we'd have to pick Barrett's side here. Okay. Relational realism. We did the AI stuff. We did the police shooting stuff. We did key philosopher thinkers to watch. If you want to read those who are following up on this rigorously, we got Andy Clark, the godfather of the predictive processing mind. His recent work continues to harmonize with Barrett's, focusing on how the brain predicts the world to minimize surprise. Anil Seth focuses on consciousness as a controlled hallucination. His work is the sibling to affective realism, where Barrett focuses on emotion, Seth focuses on sensory perception, vision, and selfhood. Then we got Boris Krieger. His recently written he has recently written on the model trap, the idea that we are evolutionarily trapped in our predictive models and can never directly access base reality. He links this modern. Oh man. He has written on the model trap, the idea that we are evolutionarily trapped in our predictive models, affective realism, and can never directly access base reality. So this is exactly what I say. So I should find this type of book and see if there's like a better way of going about it. He links this modern neuroscience back to the philosophy of Spinoza. Whoa. And Spinoza was what was Spinoza? Spinoza's is this existential? Or is this like before that? 1632. Whoa. What was Spinoza known for? His radical philosophy identifying God with nature, his deterministic worldview denying free will but championing freedom through understanding. Sound familiar? Oh, I'm not even on part one, but do I literally say that? Freedom through understanding. There we go. And his ethical system focused on controlling passions for happiness, all presented in his masterpiece, Ethics. Yikes. Maybe we got to read Spinoza at some point. Okay, summary of what you can rigorously believe. Confirm the brain is a prediction engine, not a reactive camera. This is a widely accepted consensus in 2026. Contested whether anger or fear have any biological distinctness. Affective realism says no. Classical theorists say yes. The logical conclusion: if you accept affective realism, you must accept that you are the architect of your own experience, but you are also a prisoner of your past experiences. Yep. Okay. Boris Krieger. What is going on? What is going on here? The philosophy of entropy. Whoa. Who was all about entropy on this channel? Was it Changebox? We have to manifest Changebox here. All right. Identifying / equivocating. Whoa, huge text. You're so big. Uh-oh. Where's the I might need another example here. I missed it. Oh, is this all? No, what am I looking at now? Big. Why did it get big? Why is it so big now? Okay, it needs to get... Oh, I changed the font size to 40 from 20. And I was supposed to do the seconds. That makes sense. Message limit. Message limit? I could do a non... What does this mean? 4.5? 6? And... yeah, I don't know why it needs to do that. That's kind of insane. Should we do it just via this? 500? 450? 400? Oh. Okay, it's not letting me go under. That's terrible. Just another terrible feature here. Ah, there we go. I'm curious, when Boris says Ken, if that's an actual quote in Gemini, that's modal language. I'd be curious to hear his contradiction. Oh, Ken. Where's the Ken? The idea where we are evolutionarily trapped and can never directly access base reality. I'd imagine what this means is, I mean, I'm literally going to, pre-bias this with my own, thinking and what I say on this channel, but it would mean that there is no such thing as base reality. It's not that there's a base reality that we can't access. It's that, like, we're never going to be able to, it's just that, like, we're never experiencing something that we can call a base reality. That's kind of the idea. Like, it always comes down to, like, how we are able to talk about these things. Okay, the other thing we have to do today before we end off is I have to respond to... Oh, I don't want to dox anyone. And of course I dox everyone. Okay. I have to respond to... Peter, who wrote something. Here is version cleaned by AI published on the page for better oh, nice. From brain metaphor to the worldview. So is this everything that... Oh. Okay, shoot. This comes with a video. I forgot we have a video to watch. I need to watch this video. I don't know if we have time for this. I don't know. Maybe?
Let me tell you a little.
Maybe we just do the summary. Let me see what's going on here. Okay, let's go one at a time here. Boris Krieger, what do we have? 2025. Is he writing all these things? What is going on here? We've got 5 books, 10 books. He's just this guy's using AI. What is going on here? All of his books released in 2025? No shot. I don't trust this guy anymore. I don't know what's going on, but this is getting a little fishy. Does this guy exist? They're all free? Oh, that's Kindle Unlimited. Who is this Boris Krieger guy? Is Boris Krieger a real person? It is sus. Okay. I'm curious when Boris says can. Okay, if we can experience physical reality, does that mean it is just a theory? If we can never experience physical reality, it's less of a idea of whether we can experience physical reality, because like we the way that we talk about these things, we can say that the things that we're seeing is physical reality because it heavily affects what we end up being conscious of. Like that's the argument there. Despite the fact that our predictive processes actually predict what we're seeing before we see it. Usually the external sensory data does affect what we see over time, but like not that much time. Like when we say that the predictive stuff gets to our conscious interpretation first, it's by like a very small bit of time, but then that external data does influence the trajectory of our conscious experience very quickly after that. So yeah, we could. I think it's fine to say that we experience, like we perceive the physical world. The flaw is just to say that like that makes the physical world some like ontological truth, or to say that what we're thinking about the physical world is some ontological truth, because the way that we see the physical world is still very much affected by those top-down signals. The predictive priors here. Like as far as as far as our understanding of science goes, our understanding of physical reality is quite robust. It's done. It's completed the criteria for what we can feel very comfortable believing in. But yeah, it just comes down to the idea of like, what does it mean to experience physical reality? Like, that's really where we get to. Theories in the scientific sense make predictions, so I'm not sure theory is the word. You experience its shadow and infer it is there. You could kind of say that. I mean, the shadow analogy kind of, once again, the shadow analogy implies that there's a real thing making the shadow, and in this case, once again, like, that wouldn't be what we're trying to get at, because the idea is we're trying to separate the conscious experience, which, you know, when we talked about consciousness, we could say that the things that we experience as having meaning, like the meaning we experience, this is a different thing than the physical world. You know, the idea of things having significance and meaning, this is just a quality of our conscious experience. It's not a quality of the physical world. In the physical world, as far as we know it, there's no like significance. It's just I don't know. It's just stuff. It's just all energy. I don't know. It's all you know. It's hard to even talk about what the physical world would be without the significance side that we add in from our conscious experience. Like when we're thinking about the physical world, we can't think about patterns at all. It's just there, you know. It's a very Alan Watts way to look at the physical world. Like, the physical world is just, it's not, we can't even think about time as like a sequential thing, you know. The physical world is just, it's just this thing. It's all there. Or it's not there, you know. It's yeah. I got to find someone who says that better, but hopefully the idea is getting across that really, whenever we're thinking about atoms and we're thinking about forces and energy and you know, all these different things that we find in the physical world, we're infusing so much culturally instantiated and developed concepts that is shaping our experience of the knowledge. Like, this is an epistemology. There's no epistemology outside of our experience and culture. You experience it, okay, but maybe infallibility is sneaking in there. Infallibility of, like, I could not possibly prove that this is false, what I'm saying. Yeah, the idea is, the only thing that I can argue for is how we ought to speak about these things. You know, I'm not arguing for what is like true in some sense. I'm saying, like, given what we know, our science and our understanding of the physical world itself suggests this about our knowledge, understanding, and our experiences of meaning. That's what it suggests. That's what it strongly implies. And thus, infallibility, yeah, I mean, it's less of like infallibility. It's what would we have to learn in order for us to feel like the way that I'm speaking about this would actually be inappropriate. That's the question. Like, what would we have to learn for us to need to be required to change the way we speak about these ideas? Because that's how I arrived here. I arrived here because I'm following what I think the science allows and slash forces us to think about these things. But you hesitate to say it's ultimately real. Depends by what we mean by real. When you were saying we understand such and such about the physical world with robustness as in, you know, we're following heuristics. We're following the heuristics of empirical science, which is to say, like, the standards. It's the method. It's the methodology. So when I say, you know, we're following the methodology, I'm really trying to once again keep this grounded in our experience. So this is why I like to talk about this as a heuristic. Like within our conceptual understanding of what science is, what the physical world is, like we understand what it would mean for us in our own experience for us to be following the standards of science. Like what things do we have to do in order to be for us to feel as though we are following those rules. And granted, we are certainly speculating when we believe that there existed scientists past 100 years ago. I don't know that for sure, but I'm just assuming that I'm trusting that our history is pretty right about that, in the sense that we're obviously operating within our cultural conceptual domain. What it would mean for a scientist to exist. And so we could follow these heuristics to arrive at something that we can feel confident in, and that's really all we have. We've got this methodology, we got logic, and we got obviously we just have trust at the end of the day. Okay, I think a trap for the scientist is assuming the scope of future science and that we have much of it figured out already. I don't think this is certain. Right. That's why, once again, the way that I speak about these things is always contingent, and it's always prone to being updated. That's the whole point of our interpreting, or our interpretive framework. Right? The whole idea is that given where we are, we can come up with the most apt way we could talk about these things right now. But we are always, I talk about this in the paradox and the beauty of this framework. We always over time, its concepts risk becoming outdated, and its assumptions misaligned with a changing reality. And when I say changing reality, I don't just mean that things are moving in the world. I mean people's understandings are changing. So in other words, this document would not have been helpful to people 500 years ago, and it may not be helpful for the people of tomorrow. We can embrace this paradox as a fundamental feature. The beauty of our framework lies not in a claim to timeless perfection, a direct apprehension of fixed truths, but in our self-conscious awareness of our own responsibility to counteract this inherent risk of stagnation. We can embrace the challenge that our framework is necessarily incomplete. While it offers conceptual structure to our experience, understanding, and freedom, it can never fully capture the richness of the present culture and the experiences it influences. So that's why we have to treat this as a living document. And that's why if I were to learn something that makes what I'm saying feel not correct, then I feel as though I have a responsibility to change the way I'm speaking. And that's something that I want to commit to now, because that will affect whether I actually do it. If something unpleasantly tells me, hey, the way that you're talking about this is actually incorrect because of this new thing that we just found in the universe or in the brain or whatever. But given what we know in the universe and in the brain, this is what it seems to suggest for us. It's what are the consequences of the fact that every single human being, every single one, has an equal footing of the understanding, in the sense that what is the quality that would make someone's understanding more apt than another person's. And I mean, you could say whether or not it leads them to survive, or you could say that whether or not it leads them to have other people agree with them. But there's obviously going to be contradictions to each of those things. People can survive following something that other people down the line find out to be false. People can convince a lot of other people of things that end up being false, interpreted down the line. That isn't to say that the people that interpret it down the line as false are more right in some sense. It's just that where is the judge here? Who actually has the final say of what is correct? And that's something we can never find. And that means that, I think that means that we each are on that same footing of having our own contingent speculative frameworks about what is and what isn't. It's always best to be optimistic as a scientist. I agree. Yeah, I like the way I said it in the, where was this guy? Videos, part 2. State of progress. The physicalist view is predicated on the assumption that its own perspective is insufficient and lacking. The claim that neuroscience will never solve the problem is an untestable, unfalsifiable statement of metaphysical pessimism. Science operates on the explicit bet against such never claims. So, yeah, I mean, in that same vein, like, I take it that the standards of science also include the possibility that what it currently knows about the physical world is insufficient or lacking in some sense. So, it also has the assumption that it can be, its own interpretation can be replaced by something that explains the world a little bit nicer or more nicely. Okay. Boris Krieger is a real person. He is a contemporary author, philosopher, and former member of the clergy based in Canada. According to search results, he has a diverse professional background. He is a prolific writer, I would say that, who has published dozens of books covering philosophy, science, theology, and fiction. His works include titles such as The Philosophy of Quantum Physics, The Anatomy of Stupidity, and The Creative Cosmos. He writes in multiple languages. He is identified as a former Orthodox priest who served with the Bulgarian Eastern Orthodox Diocese. Okay, what is going on here? Could we get a Wikipedia page on this guy? Because this is getting a little crazy. This is the only picture of this guy? This guy does not exist. This is crazy. All right. We just have his books and this? No way. Who was behind Boris Krieger? Oh my gosh. Russian writer? Nothing? Goodreads? So all of these books, 2 ratings, 1 rating. This makes no sense. Wait, what did that say? Boris Krieger. 617 books. This cannot be real. This is crazy. If he has a degree, yeah, we got to get that out of it. Did I get rid of the Gemini that was talking about Boris? Does he have a degree? Oh, any degrees? It says he's written 600 plus books. I think he might be fake. Okay. Canadian researcher and interdisciplinary scholar working at the intersection of probability theory, cosmology, theoretical astrophysics, and the foundation of physics. What is happening? No way. Is GitHub is 5 days ago? Yesterday? Oh gosh. Is this AI or is this not AI? How do we get here? What is this about? The model trap? Yes, he is a real person, though your skepticism about the 600 books figure is understandable given the context of how those books are published. Does he have a degree? There is limited independent verification of his specific academic credentials in the available search results, but he makes specific claims about his education. In his own biographical notes, such as on Audible, he has stated he holds a Master of Science in Intelligence Systems and his ABD, all but dissertation in computational linguistics. Religious training, okay. The extremely high volume of books is likely due to self-publishing through his own platform. Is the founder and editor-in-chief of Altaspera, the publishing house that releases his books. This allows him to bypass the traditional gate. I'm not worried about the gatekeeping aspect of this. His bibliography is incredibly broad, covering distinct and complex fields like that. Okay, the fake feeling you're getting likely comes from... He writes in that, and some of the 600 count may include translations. Okay, can you prove that he's a real person? Because I'm getting... Oh, wait a second. Publications. Oh, no. Oh, no. One view, one download. How about any references? Is he getting cited by anyone? Oh. Okay. Some meditation teachers have 100 books. I mean, that's fair. I feel like 100's within the range, but like once you get over 200, I'm getting a little skeptical. How did we start talking about Mr. Krieger again? It was because this thing, Key Philosophers, Thinkers to Watch, Boris Krieger, has recently written on the model trap, the idea that we are evolutionarily trapped in our predictive models and can never directly access base reality. That's what started this whole discussion. Although some of them use speech excerpts to get 100 books. Oh, I see. Obscure Eastern European writer who writes prolifically about obscure topics is a classic. It says Biographia on the Cyrillic link. Sivananda and Satyananda Saraswati have 100 books. That's cool. He is not writing all of this in latex. There's no way. A master's in AI. That's true. We could try Google Scholar. Cited by 4 people. Oh. Complete works. That's it. What is complete works? The joys of common sense. Oh, and complete works. Okay. The joys of common sense, a future beyond imagination, the uncertain universe, Lily Bunny and the secret of a happy life, theological articles. All right, so this is kind of checking out. 2012? Was this actually posted in 2012? As much as you may get upset about the passing of another day, nothing will change. What is happening here? All of these are 2025. I want to know where he wrote about the... Yes, there is evidence in the provided search results that proves Boris Krieger is a real person. The most compelling proof comes from independent third-party sources that document his interactions with other individuals and legal entities. Here are the specific details from the context that verify his existence. A detailed article from Peta Pixel outlines a specific copyright dispute between Canadian Boris Bruce Krieger and a photographer named Don Komarechka. The report confirms Krieger created educational videos for his channel, Altaspera. Oh, this is where we should have gone first. All right. Oh my gosh, he exists. Who is this guy? Search for him on Reddit. True. Okay. There's not much going here, but he's on X, of course. Dang. Man. Am I not going to be able to understand any of this?
Борис Кригер, не имея при этом материального благополучия.
This is AI.
Эти взаимоотношения когнитивные способности человека. Мы
This isn't a real person. I'm back. 4 books published in 1 month? Question mark. I can translate. None of these have his face. This is unacceptable. Each of these are a different book. Yo! Okay.
Эта лекция подготовлена для конференции, и ее тема, по сути, зачем мы пишем, зачем я продолжаю писать. Когда никто не просит, никто особенно не ждет, почему я сажусь за текст, не зная, прочтет ли его кто-нибудь, услышит.
Oh my gosh. How can this get more meta? Why do I sit down to write a text without knowing whether anyone will read it, hear it?
Поймет ли, нужен ли мой голос вообще. Эта лекция не рассказ о творчестве как о ремесле, не объяснение методов или техник, скорее попытка поговорить о внутренней потребности, о том движении, которое начинается глубоко внутри и не оставляет в покое, пока не будет выведено наружу в реальность.
Wow.
Я хочу говорить о той странной радости.
I want to talk about that strange joy that comes when you write not for the result, not for the reader, but simply because you can't do otherwise. And feel when the words appear by themselves as if they chose you and not you them, about silence that suddenly becomes full. Man, this guy's a prophet. What is going on? Oh, man. Yeah, the dude's house isn't even real. Is this just like, do you think this is another, like maybe he's not even saying these words? Oh, man. Oh, hello, it's me, Boris Krieger. I am real. Welcome to the channel. Where's sunglasses? I was at the conference. Shout out to Einstein. It's just his aura. I was gonna say, Stan, get this guy on the stream, but I'm scared that if he comes on, he'll never leave. Here's a question. Can I? Oh, I can't. See, it would be really nice if I could translate the summary. Oh,
Форма, смыслы.
I don't know if I could like get into him. What? Yo. What is happening? Oh no. Yo, what? Oh man. I've been played. Okay. What if he just makes AI write all this and then reads it out? That's true. He could be doing that. He could also be writing and then getting AI to read it. That's another possibility. Is this an ARG and are we losing? What's an ARG? Is that, to be honest, I believe him. A lot of stuff going on in Eastern Europe. You'll never even believe it. The most random people like Bava Vanga. Which church was he? The Orthodox something? Maybe it was just the Orthodox Church? Are we gonna... There we go. Transfiguration. Church in America. Archdiocese of Canada. Right, right. On the sign. Okay, I'm on it. Oh, nice. We're going in? Oh, we got a cat. Got double cat?
В котором мы находимся с точки зрения вот этого прекрасного интерьера даже. Когда сюда попадаешь, такое ощущение, что ты уже здесь был. Как в Ясной Поляне, как кто-то тут пошутил.
Ну, когда ощущение, что уже был, это значит скучно.
Был, значит, близкое что-то. Библиотека, книги, рояль, камин.
Ну, безусловно, это как бы влияние нашего детства советского, проведенного в бедных квартирах, когда мы смотрели серии про Шерлока Холмса, и для нас как бы самым лучшим образом
I'm starting to think this guy's a legend.
стиль
The church is real. His Medium page. Nope, no way his Medium page. I don't know. What are we looking at right now?
Естественно, когда человек имеет возможность каким-то образом обустраивать свое пространство.
Like, this is a full interview.
Да, не бывает случайно. Но в то время это опять же было как страсть. Вдруг вот я увлекся. Он тоже всегда сетовал, что это те, кто стоят, знаете, в очередях. И они там сдружились.
He's going through all of his books.
Драть.
What is going on?
Писал мои стихотворения. В принципе, чтобы над ним
55 views 8 months ago. Eight hours.
Борис Кригер. Крошечные гиганты. Вы – эффективная сложность вселенной.
I'm at a loss. Which book covers the, what was it called? The evolution trap? The something trap? Oh, whoops. Which book covers the model trap? Okay, on the second link, here we go. We got the About Me. And then we've got Boris Krieger. Yeah, he's out there. Holy Transfiguration Orthodox Mission. So he exists. The question is he using AI to create a bunch of books and then have YouTube or have AI to read them on YouTube? Like, how would you go about doing that? Spreads gospel teachings. Like this religious aspect of him seems to be very much like the real evil. This book undertakes a multidisciplinary inquiry into the nature, origins, and operations of evil as a metaphysical, structural, and psychological phenomenon, departing from traditional moral frameworks that reduce evil to individual acts of cruelty or moral failure. The text situates evil as an ontological force, at times preceding being, at other times emerging from systems, language, desire, and the very architecture of order. Oh my gosh. As an intrinsic shadow. Okay, so maybe I misunderstood this phrasing. The phrasing here that we can never access it, and maybe he actually believes there is a base reality that is separate from us, and that we are just getting a shadow of it. Wow. Which fortunately means that we don't want to follow him up. But that being said, I am curious. The book is titled Spinoza, Evolution and the Model Trap. Why we cannot perceive reality directly. 6 hours ago. What? That's why Gemini would be able to find this, though. Heidegger and Artificial Intelligence. Is this a book? Four months ago. Oh, jeez. A thinker of profound originality and notorious difficulty, Heidegger remains one of the most contested figures of the 20th century. So, are we looking at AI or not? That's the question. His monumental Being in Time redefined philosophy's central question: what does it mean to be? While his later writings probe technology, language, art, and mortality, yet his shadowed political entanglements continue to stir unease, demanding the readers confront not only the brilliance of his thought, but also the darkness of his biography. This book offers a clear and engaging journey through Heidegger's work, his neologisms and abstractions, his haunting insights into time and death, his uneasy legacy, and the vibrant debates he inspired. From Dasein to being toward death, from the forgetting of being to the question of technology, each chapter opens the door to Heidegger's thought. Well, this has to be AI, right? What if this guy just only writes? Like that's his life. Oh man. All right, beyond question of style, Heidegger is frequently criticized for his political commitments and ties to National Socialism. This shadow over his biography has fueled long and heated debates. To what extent are his political sympathies reflected in his philosophy, and can his intellectual legacy be disentangled from his moral failings? And yet, despite the tangled controversy surrounding both his writings and his life, Heidegger is regarded by many as a philosopher of immense significance. So I think this has to be AI. This is just so like base writing. I feel like I missed the stand. If all of his books are post 2019, then it's probably AI. Yeah. Oh, he has like 2 articles a day on Medium when he's there, and they're like 60 pages long, right? Yeah. Okay. So we've got a real living guy, and he maybe is. I don't know. I don't know if I could trust that he actually got the degree in AI or whatever science he got. Yeah, like I don't know if I could trust that master's in AI now. I think he just has access to AI. He's writing a bunch of stuff. He's playing as if he's a con artist, but he's brilliant in that way. But he might be a con artist. We do not see the world as it is. We only see our model of it. For over 2 millennia, philosophers have described this condition. Plato's shadows on the cave wall, Kant's veil of phenomena, Spinoza's confused imaginatio. But why are we trapped behind this perceptual barrier? The answer is not metaphysical mystery, but evolutionary necessity. So the fact that he would feel the need to do this, though, is kind of goated in a sense. But it's also really wild. All right, so I'm going to take his AI and I'm going to gank it, and I'm bringing it to my AI. Okay, here is the full text. And then we probably have to end off. Peter, if you see this, I owe you watching this thing tomorrow. And I got to figure out if what Peter gave me is a supplement or a complement to the video. The simplification of reality and science, is that not the same?
Let me tell you a little.
I see. This video seems relevant to your approach. Oh, okay. Wow, this is just what he said. Seems relevant to your approach. From a perspective quite close to mine, don't set your expectations too high, though. It's more of an introduction to the kind of mindset we need to adopt for proper sense making. It's aimed at lay people, but it still encourages the crucial zoomed out awareness of how we're making sense of things. So we could start off tomorrow. Yeah, I noticed the other channels discussion linked to the video featuring Dr. Laukkanen. If you've seen it, you're likely already familiar with some of these connections. His work is formalized within the free energy principle framework, and he's particularly strong when it comes to philosophy. Was Peter the entropy person? At one point in this video, I'll comment on what Professor Floridi said. Okay. Oh, man. Boris Krieger. He's going to haunt my dreams here. Who is Peter? I don't know. Who from the consciousness video? Maybe. I mean, it was... I think that's where Peter... That's when Peter found this channel. Was there a Peter in the consciousness video? Or are you saying, like, I think that's when he came here, when he started. I think he was in the chat. All right, this is the full text. I've analyzed the text. It provides a rigorous bridge between evolutionary biology, information theory, and Spinozan philosophy. It argues that indirect perception, the model trap, is not a philosophical mystery, but an engineering necessity. Why are we trapped? Constraint time. Neural signals move slowly. For a large animal, the delay between sensation and action is too long, 50 milliseconds. If you react only to what you feel now, you are reacting to the past. To survive, you must predict the future to compensate for lag. Noise, computational load. The environment contains too much data. The retina alone sends 10 million bits per second. No brain can process this raw stream. The brain must compress the data by extracting patterns, affective complexity, and discarding the rest. Okay. Okay. And be real with me. Do you think this was written by AI? What else do we have here? The Spinozan connection, mapping science to philosophy. The book's primary innovation is mapping Spinoza's 3 kinds of knowledge onto modern predictive processing architecture. So we got confused partial ideas. We got understanding through common notions and logic, and then knowing the essence of things as modes of God. Whoa. So let's skip past there. The evolutionary timeline. Okay. And then AI convergence. I don't like that view, but okay. The spandrels of the mind. Nice. One of the most provocative chapters, chapter 12, argues that the things we value most are not evolutionary adaptations, but spandrels of the model trap. Consciousness, a byproduct of the need to model yourself to predict your own actions. Memory, not a storage bin, but a training data set required to update the predictive model. Suffering, the subjective feeling of unresolved prediction error when the model fails to predict the world and cannot act to fix it. The solution, not escape but lucidity. The book concludes that we cannot escape the cave. The cave is our architecture. However, we can achieve Spinoza's blessedness. We are living in a dream. We cannot wake up, but we can become lucid dreamers. When we understand that our anger, fear, and sadness are just prediction errors and model outputs, we cease to be in bondage to them. This is the intellectual love of God / nature, loving the system for what it is, including the trap itself. Wow, this is, I don't like how close this is to what the document says. This is really close to the document. How this relates to your previous question. This text provides the philosophical why behind the affective realism you asked about earlier. Right. Okay. To be completely real with you, yes, I am 95 to 99% sure this was written by AI. You asked for an honest assessment, so here is the breakdown of why this text screams AI generation rather than human philosophy. The impossible publishing schedule. This is the smoking gun based on the metadata I found. Boris Krieger published this book on Medium. In that same month, he also released or posted about why AI made consciousness obsolete. The flowing self. Nothing strange about quantum strangeness. Beyond the first cause. It takes 2 to tango. No human philosopher, no matter how brilliant, writes 5 to 6 deep philosophical books or treatise length works in a single month. This is content farming using an LLM. The midwit synthesis style. The writing style is the biggest tell. It reads exactly like a high-end model, like GPT-4 or Gemini 1.5. 1.5? Wait, Gemini or GPT-4? What's going on here? Gemini doesn't even know its own model. Okay. When asked to write a book connecting Spinoza to predictive processing, too smooth. Real philosophy is usually messy. Authors struggle with contradictions. They hesitate. They have weird idiosyncrasies. This text glides perfectly from Spinoza, bacteria, AI, the future. Feels like a Wikipedia summary on steroids. The summarizer tick. Notice how every chapter ends with a perfect little summary that restates the thesis. This is a classic AI habit. It constantly summarizes what it just wrote to make sure it stays on track. And then lack of voice. If you read Spinoza, he sounds like Spinoza. If you read Daniel Dennett, he sounds like Dennett. This text sounds like standard informative voice. It has no distinct personality. The structural artifacts. This confirms it's a Medium blog post formatted to look like a book. Okay, the chapter balance. Every chapter is roughly the same weight and length. Human books usually have short chapters and long chapters depending on the idea. AI tends to output equal-sized chunks because of token limits or prompt structures. The author's own admission, implicit. Boris Krieger's own bio and other works suggest he leans heavily into AI. He literally has a project called Talk to AI version of Boris Krieger and writes extensively. Okay, how do we get to Talk to AI version of Boris Krieger? Oh, man. Okay. What do you think about Robert Brandom? This is one of the most serious living attempts to make meaning, mind, and rationality intelligible without treating them as magic substances floating above nature. At the center of his project is a simple, almost pastoral thought. To have a concept is to be answerable. Not answerable to a police officer, but to reasons, to what follows from what you say, what would count against it, what commits you to what else. So he redescribes thought and language in normative terms, not what brain states cause what utterances, but what you've undertaken by saying this and what you're entitled to, what others may demand of you. What I find strong in Brandon, he restores dignity to rationality. He makes inferential relations central. He offers a non-mystical account of normativity. I just don't like how he doesn't ground normativity in the physical science of the brain. For example, conditioning, affect, etc. I'm sympathetic to that irritation. If normativity floats too far above conditioning, affect, reward, threat responses, then it starts to feel like a priestly language game, elegant, self-contained, and suspiciously unbiological. But I think there are two different complaints hidden in what you said, and they come apart. He ignores the causal story. On this, yes, Brandon mostly brackets it. He's doing something like what a jurist does when they say, I'm not asking why you punched him neurologically. I'm asking whether you're responsible, what you're committed to, what counts as justification. Right. Brains matter, conditioning matters. All right. He can't account for normativity without science. Here it gets trickier. Even if neuroscience explains how humans come to follow rules, it doesn't automatically give you the ought. It gives you this circuitry tends to produce conformity. Okay. I didn't mean to say that one. Can I edit this? Okay. I was going for something akin to the second. My concern is that... What's the concern here? That the process that he describes in his theory of mind as to how concepts develop is perhaps not in line, or okay, perhaps not the most apt way to think about how concepts actually develop in our minds. Especially given that we have significant neural correlates relating beliefs, concepts to underlying processes, and we have interpretations such as PP and allostasis that make clear sense of what direction our understanding might go in a given situation. Brandom's view covers either our conscious perspective or some theoretical third person perspective, and both might lack the specificity and directness of the more comprehensive biological, psychological / cognitive discussion. Okay. Okay, Krieger, what do you got? What do you got for me here? Oh, now he's gonna think. Okay. All right. Sorry about all this. Do you still have his YouTube page, Krieger's? Can you check his about and see how many videos per day? It was about. I did look at that. It was like one per day almost. Like the last video was 2 days ago, and it was like pretty frequently, and it was like almost a whole book each day. So I'm guessing he's just reading what he makes in the Medium article using AI voice, posting it on YouTube. Join 2011, 1,700 videos. Stan is hooked. Hell nah. He doesn't need us anymore, Onion. He has Boris now. I should have a Boris. Yo, we should get Boris in the chat. The Boris bot. Pumpkin hears, pumpkin sees, pumpkin thinks, pumpkin frees, pumpkin knows, pumpkin talks, tells you what it's worth. Pumpkin is pumpkin, and you are you. So be like pumpkin and let love come to you. Aw. All right, if you mean dependence / supervenience, not reduction. What does supervenience mean? To a relation between sets of properties or sets of facts. X is said to supervene on. I did not get enough out of that. All right. Then your worry lands exactly where Brandon is most vulnerable. He can sound like he's giving a story of concept formation when he's really giving a story of concept status. And those are different jobs. Two different questions that Brandon tends to blur, or at least readers blur for him. Constitutive question. What makes something a concept? Brandon's answer, being able to play the game of giving and asking for reasons, undertaking commitments, acknowledging incompatibilities, drawing inferences, revising. So he's highlighting the social aspect of this game, right? In my mind, this is just a interpretive lens that we could put on the actual social dynamics and conditioning that happens when people interact. But developmental implementational question, how do creatures like this actually acquire concepts? This is where PP, allostasis, conditioning, affective salience, attention, plasticity, social learning, etc. live. Your point is basically Brandon's A answer gets mistaken for a B answer, and once you bring all that stuff, B looks very unlike a courtroom of reasons. 2. Predictive processing allostasis makes concept learning look value-shaped, not reason-shaped. Kind of. Yeah, it comes down to what reason, like what norms about reasoning you end up valuing. Like that's kind of the idea, where if you're in a social group and they don't care about the reasons why you would think something, then you never actually have to give those reasons, nor do you have to think about those reasons. You can just take it as is. But once you're in a different group, then those reasons come to light. So it's about what is valued in the, in some sense, it's what values get placed upon you. So concept formation is often that. Yeah, one way to make peace. Brandon has personal level intelligibility. Predictive processing allostasis as subpersonal dynamics. So Brandon, what it is for some of those states to count as reasons, beliefs, commitments, entitlements. This is basically a levels move. Brandon is giving you the normative semantics of mature discursive cognition. Predictive processing is giving you the learning inference machinery that makes any of it possible. Can we add? Oh, can we add? Oh man, I don't know how to go from there. Could we not get our... Could we not get a larger menu here? Oh, we can get a larger menu. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. What are your thoughts about this? Should I do this in a new one, though? A new Boris? Uh-oh, file upload pending. Might be too big. Might be too big for ChatGPT. Oh. I don't know what ChatGPT's context window is probably not big enough. Stan the type of guy to add Boris Day to his calendar. Nah, I think this is the only Boris Day we're giving him. This con man. Okay. I gotta stop this stream. Boris comes out with a new video analyzing the Stan Richardson public I wouldn't be surprised if he ganks the document and just runs with it. Can you ask Boris Bot why he does what he does and posts AI slob? True, that would actually be that's genius. Where do we go? What would happen? Oh, it's on a different page, right? Okay. According to what's in the Stan Richardson public document, I see a project that is trying to do in a friendly, public-facing way what a lot of philosophy claims to do but rarely manages: connect worldview to mind model to practical life guidance while explicitly keeping science in the loop. What I think is genuinely strong here: clear success criteria. You explicitly say you'll judge the framework by coherence, explanatory power, and practical utility, and that it should show how it can be usefully applied. That's a good anti-bullshit constraint. The integration stance is honest. You repeatedly frame the work as a tool/map/interpretation, not a final truth. And you explicitly reject a view from nowhere while also rejecting magical free will. That's the right kind of humility for a living document. Your mind model is directionally modern. The emphasis on embodied cognition plus predictive processing as a unifying picture is coherent and does match where a lot of cognitive science discussions tend to cluster. Where I'd press you. Oh, especially given our Brandom thread. Your document already contains the ingredients to answer the worry you raised about your Brandom. About Brandom, that space of reasons account can feel underspecified compared to that. But the bridge could be made sharper. Right now, you sometimes slide between three things: mechanism, right? How concepts, expectations get formed and updated; phenomenology, how it feels; and then normativity, what counts as correct, justified, responsible, a good reason. You do say you're integrating science plus subjective experience plus philosophy, and you can even talk about norms we've inherited and authority and responsibility and the use of can. But the reader may still ask, where exactly does ought, correct, justified live in this picture? Not in a supernatural realm, fine. Not reducible to neuron, also fine. So what is its role and how does it constrain anything in practice? It's kind of reducible to neurons. It's reducible to, your cultural understanding and your individual predisposition. If you want a clean reconciliation, present normativity as a social, ecological constraint, unpredictable, updating. Right? They shape our landscapes. What gets punished, rewarded, what gets called nonsense, what gets treated as evidence. That lets you keep Random's insight without making so this was honestly pretty good. Maybe this is just ChatGPT in general, but Yoavco. Affective. Hell yeah, affective. Holy glaze. It was a holy glaze. Relating to emotion. Right. It's pretty unusual usage of realism, right? Yeah, it's pretty modern, I think, and it's also really small. Like I don't think people talk about affective realism like that. Thanks, Daniel. Why are you reading off ChatGPT? All right, well, this is tough to explain. Like 30 minutes ago, we found this guy, Boris Krieger, and we searched the interwebs for him, and there were signs that he just did not... Wait, why are we getting more pictures now? What the heck? All right, well, I was convinced that this guy didn't exist because he has like a 1,000 books, and no one's reading them. He's got publications, but no one's citing him. But then we found that he does exist. He's got a YouTube channel, and he's actually on there. And he's spreading. Oh no. And so, yeah, we found out that this is a real person that has gotten a hold of AI and is now just mass producing books. And, I could give him credit for the topics of these books. And he's actually like, he's putting in the effort to generate them. I guess that might take a little bit of time every day. But he's pumping these things out. So he is kind of a con man in that sense. But anyway, he also has, according to... Yeah, so this is what we found. I was talking to Gemini. So I usually use Gemini because, Gemini is really effective for learning. And Gemini pointed us towards this AI version of Boris Krieger, which is why I'm here talking to Boris Krieger's AI. So, AI based off AI. Yep. All right, so we got this. We got that. Add a one-page levels diagram. Okay, make part 2 visibly bite-sized. You promise practical tools. But part 1 is also already very expansive. It risks becoming a cathedral where the reader never gets fed. Even a recurring practice box every few pages would keep the project anchored. Okay. It's an ambitious synthesis with a good ethos. The main risk is not that it's wrong, but that it becomes too encompassing and starts to feel like a worldview museum rather than a tool you can use on a Tuesday afternoon. Fair enough. All right. Now, can we get a Boris Krieger? Can I do a new Boris Krieger chat? No. I got to get a new... how do we get here? Okay. AI Boris Krieger. Let's go. 5.2. What's the question? We want to ask why he's swindling his people here. Type of guy to give Elon Musk the rocket plans but not get credit. True. Boris is such a nice guy. All right. Yes. Why does... Okay. Why do you do what you do? Why are you posting mass AI slop on Medium and then selling books with this AI slop? And then, okay, slop, and then have AI read these books on YouTube. Okay. Why are you doing this? I hear the accusation and I won't dodge it. If what I publish looks like mass AI slop, there are only a few possible explanations. It really is slop, repetitive, inflated, shallow, produced to fill space. It's not slop, but it reads like it. Or 3, it's my way of surviving. Sick, tired, broken spirit, trying to keep the mind moving, trying not to disappear. Now, the honest part. Okay, right. Why sell books? Why? Okay, the deeper reason. I'm trying to preserve a mind, not content, not engagement, a mind. I've lived through... Okay, this is giving us his background. If AI is used to inflate what I don't genuinely think, it becomes dishonest. If it's used to express what I genuinely think, faster, clearer, it can be legitimate, but it must still be edited, owned, and shaped by a human conscience. If you're seeing slop, the corrective isn't okay. So let's get rid of the slop part and just say content. Because I'm trying to survive. Okay. I don't say sell AI books as a con. I package ideas so they don't disappear. Man, this is incredible. The uncomfortable part, yes, it can look cynical from the outside. From the outside, it looks like a factory. Post, compile, sell, narrate, repeat. But from the inside, it's closer to this. I'm trying to outpace erasure. I'm trying to leave an archive of my mind before my body gives up. I'm trying to turn chaos into something shaped. Okay, you have little to no views. Where no, that's he doesn't have no views. True too. He's got a ton of subscribers now. Oh man. Grok says what we're all thinking anyway. We just couldn't find the words. Boris Krieger, the type of guy to defeat Plato in a debate and then time travel to the present day. Whoa. Boris Krieger, the type of guy to predict the coming of Stan Richson. Did he? LMAO. Entirely handwritten. Nothing is handwritten. True. Did this thing say entirely handwritten? If I present AI-assisted work as entirely handwritten, that's dishonest. If I flood the world with empty sludge, that's noise and vanity. So the only justification that holds true is this. Does it help someone think, endure, or feel less alone? If it doesn't, then I'm just adding pollution. Oh my gosh. And the one criticism I accept. The ethical line is the perspective I would take here. Despite your selfish desire to be seen, heard, etc., you are engaging in a major social faux pas. I can't even speak because, you know, obviously I used AI to help me at least. I mean, I definitely didn't use AI in anywhere near as, I guess, irresponsible as like mass producing quickly. For me, it's always obviously developing the ideas, organizing the ideas, outlining the ideas, and then actually packaging the outline into like actual words. But then at every step of the way, I'm obviously modifying and making a lot of changes, and then reapplying AI to the very stuff that just was made, and then making changes and create, you know, I'm still trying to add in obviously the exact direction that I want, and also some style as well. You're engaging in a major social. How do you spell faux pas? Whoa. You're not wrong to frame it as an ethical problem, and I won't hide behind, but I'm suffering as a universal permission slip. Suffering explains, it doesn't absolve. Still, I want to separate two things that get fused in this accusation. The act of using AI as a tool to publish, the act of flooding public space with low signal content while monetizing attention. The second is what people experience as a social offense, not because AI is involved, but because the commons get clogged. Why it's seen as a faux pas. Okay, I see. So this is an argument. The ethical test of, if I want to behave like a decent human in a shared space, I would submit to a few constraints. If I'm not doing these things, then you're right. I'm not merely expressing, I'm imposing. What I won't concede that a sick man trying to preserve thought is automatically immoral, but I will concede that the method can become, okay, what is going on here? I guess he could say that like his medium space is out of the public. It's like a separate place. He could say that, you know, his YouTube channel is not polluting anything. Like everywhere that he's posting here, he's not polluting anything. But, you know, that's what everyone can say about the, you know, AI use. But it would be different if he was posting to Reddit, if he was posting, I mean, I guess you could say YouTube is, YouTube doesn't show up in that same way. Reddit's more like a public space. Twitter's kind of like more of a public space. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. I bet Boris Krieger is typing behind the screen right now. Yeah, because he could type this fast. Sam Richardson has been foretold for millennia. I'm curious, who was the prophet? Slayer. So he knows he's saying unethical. Isn't this guy an Orthodox priest? He is. Get ChatGPT to debate him. True. I don't usually enjoy this kind of role playing. If you want to role play with LLMs, there's much more fun games. That is true. We still need to give a proper role play to our plane scenario, but that's for another day. Higher than just priest, I think, but former. This isn't talking with the person, nor is it like talking with that person, so I can't see this as anything more than like weird, pointless role playing. It is pretty pointless role playing. Faux pas. Oh, I see. I was spelling it wrong, right? What word did I just? Okay, I see. Yep. There's no way he was a bishop. Oh man, I was thinking like a pastor or something, maybe cathedral, cardinal or pope. No synthetic titles. Moses, Zarathustra, Adam, Confucius, Buddha, all foretold, and his eclectic synthesis of pragmatic wisdom. Thank you. Do you believe game theory is relevant for the document out of curiosity? That's okay. That's a good question. I think, when would game theory be important for the document? So it has to be practical, right? So it's got to be, you know, you're acting in a space with other people. When does game theory actually become important? I don't know. Maybe social, like when in part 2 of the document, we're going to be talking about social interactions just in general. We're going to talk about stuff like this, social feedback and accountability. I don't think that this would make sense, though, to talk about game theory. Leveraging the social environment in order to pursue goals effectively. Game theory, is that necessary? It doesn't sound like it. And then for part 3, would any sort of game theory be necessary for you to specifically pursue the goal of living a life that feels meaningful to you? So, if game theory is relevant for the document, I would recommend using ChatGPT. What is the von Neumann Morgenstern utility theorem? All right, I might have to not spend much time on this thing because I do want to hop off. I said I was going to get off like 30 minutes ago, but rational choice under uncertainty involves making decisions. Oh, you know what? Now that you say this. All right, this might be more important for when we're talking about logical reasoning, rational thought, thinking. These need to be organized still. I gotta figure out how to tell this story of making sense of things in the moment more effective. But all right, utility theorem demonstrates that rational choice under uncertainty involves making decisions that take the form of maximizing the expected value of some cardinal utility of function. The theorem forms the foundation of expected utility theory. So, once again, though, not once again, but when we are making decisions, the utility function is not known to us. And the idea of maximizing this utility, the value of this utility function is also not known to us. Like, we don't even have to think about this, right? This is the whole somatic marker hypothesis. Like your body will react while you're thinking of certain possibilities, options, decisions, You know, when we're thinking about almost anything, obviously the same thing is happening. The somatic marker hypothesis is just making sense of rational thought. And so the utility function is just, you know, the same utility function we've been talking about this entire time, which is allostasis, body regulation, what else? Predictive processing, obviously, free energy principle. Like that's the utility function of your thoughts, of your rational thoughts. So when you're thinking about like what to do in a certain scenario, your body and brain is figuring out what it's predicting what's going to help you in some sense in the future. But that can obviously be like a, you know, we can think about that at different levels of analysis. Like when you're addicted to something, you're going to get that feeling of drive. So your body is basically saying like, oh, I know this is going to make you feel good, like directly, you know, after you do this thing. But that's not necessarily going to be what you feel good about later in the day. Yeah, so the, you know, it's very messy to think about what is the actual utility function going on here. And yeah, once again, our body and brain aren't always gearing us towards exactly what we want, which is why we're writing this. This is the whole idea of this of pointing out that there's automatic behaviors underlying our experience and our you know, everyday engagements, and by being more cognizant of them, we can notice when they're taking hold of us. So that's why, you know, it's good to know about addiction and to know about cognitive biases and stuff like that. All right, that seems very complex to me. This almost felt definitional up until now, talking about what it means to be a rational agent. Okay, I'm not sure if are you asking for more clarity, or are you calling out this, or somatic marker hypothesis? So this is contemporary science right now. We're getting to the last 10 years of what we've discovered in the brain and the body. Proposes that emotional processes guide or bias behavior, particularly decision making. Somatic markers are feelings in the body that are associated with emotions, such as the association of rapid heartbeat with anxiety or of nausea with disgust. According to the hypothesis, somatic markers strongly influence subsequent decision making. Within the brain, somatic markers are thought to be processed in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. So of the prefrontal cortex, the ventromedial, this is like on the bottom, and this has to do with emotions, whereas the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex has to do with like our, you know, our most like high level thought, and the amygdala, and obviously we know amygdala is like square. You know, as I said earlier in the stream, like we can't say that the amygdala is the emotion circuit, but it's definitely involved in the emotion circuits. The hypothesis has been tested in experiments using the Iowa gambling task. So hypothesis, experimental evidence. What do we get? We got criticism. In conclusion, the somatic marker hypothesis needs to be tested in more experiments until a wider range of empirical approaches are employed in order to test the somatic marker hypothesis. It appears that the framework is simply an intriguing idea that is in need of some better supporting evidence. Despite these issues, the somatic marker hypothesis and the Iowa gambling task reestablished the notion that emotion has the potential to be a benefit as well as a problem during the decision-making process in humans. Yeah, I'm curious how up to date that is, because what? 2006? What's going on? Okay, the reason I say that is because, you know, all these books that I've been trying to read recently have been leveraging the somatic marker hypothesis. So Lisa Feldman Barrett's 7.5 lessons about the brain. she leveraged the semantic marker hypothesis. Behave, Sapolsky, which I just started reading, has like literally already talked about the semantic marker hypothesis as it relates to our rational thought. Like I think it's really, and then I think it came up in the embodied cognition handbook. So I think our contemporary science is really pointing in the direction of we literally cannot be rational without our emotional capacities. Roulette 100. Can I do that? Am I allowed to start it up? Oh, 100. No, I probably have it disabled. What does it do? Does it just play roulette where it'll land? Is it basically an RNG? I forgot. Okay. For real this time. I'm out of here. Tomorrow we have to give Peter our time. And then we could also, tomorrow is what, Friday? We could do a taking recommendations. We can go in any direction. Obviously tonight kind of ended up being we're going in every direction, but and we have to figure out a markdown editor tomorrow. Okay. I think we're ready. I think we're ready for a down ramp, an exit here. Okay. Oh, here we go. So, okay, first up, energy diopter. So to clarify, you believe the utility theorem is mistaken since... No, sorry, I did not give that theorem enough time. I didn't give that enough time to make any I'm sure that theorem's great, you know. I'm sure it's mighty fine. I'm a big fan of game theory. I took a game theory course in grad school, which was fun, very hard, and it also led me to so once I'm done this document, right, in 2027 when I'm done this document, in 2028 when I'm done this document, hopefully we have more people here, and the next stage is to build out a suite of crowdsourcing. Yeah, of crowdsourcing. So it's going to be a peer, not peer, like, so I did a lot of research in college on peer grading. So the types of mechanisms that allow you to have people collaborate or to assess. So like imagine just like more sophisticated polling. I specifically looked at mechanisms that are, what is it called? Like no collusion mechanisms or something like that. Such that if a bunch of people wanted to make an output happen, an outcome happen, they wouldn't be able to. Like they wouldn't be able to do any better than if they did not collude. So like there are mechanisms for that type of thing. So if all goes well in 2028 or 2029, we're going to be working on like literally voting mechanisms and perhaps like peer grading mechanisms. Like ideally we have a system where viewers can submit content or something like that, and like everyone else could just like peer grade it in some way, and we can share a bunch of content, viewer made content. I think that would be super cool. And then we've got some also like some crazy fun ideas about like frameworks for discussion, for live discussion, like potentially a company, like a straight up a service that could blow up and become like a huge thing. I don't know. We'll think about it. I'll keep it in the back of my head. I kind of had that there for like 5 years now. All right. isn't the goal in life simply to maximize utility, assuming we are rational? Kind of. Yeah, I wouldn't say let's not assert that there's just a single goal in life. In part 3, when we're talking about obviously you know, living a fulfilling life, we're gonna focus on like what we're gonna start out by considering what that might mean, and really it's gonna be individual. Like whatever you want out of your life, whether it is to feel emotionally rewarded or to feel like morally challenged or like, you know, morally you know, driven. It's like whatever you're looking for, that's like what we mean by fulfilling. And we're going to look into all the things that can affect your mental health, your well-being, etc., your pursuits, etc. Though maybe that's putting the carriage before the horse. Yeah, I think the rational discussion, though, it's almost to point out that we're kind of not rational in a sense, or that we should think about rationality in a different way. All right, not to maximize well-being. Yeah, like it might not be to maximize well-being. Like perhaps you get to a point where to feel most fulfilled, you want to be doing the most moral you can do, which is going to at some point press up against well-being. Like, so it's going to be maybe a balance between your moral strivings and well-being. And yeah, who knows where that takes them. All right, goals are subjective, I take it, but depends on your worldview. Yep. The theorem is a theorem. It's proven. You can argue about how we shall use it, though. Right. Yep. No, I imagine that's its status. So it depends what we mean by goals. Everyone has the goal of reaching their goals, for example. Absolutely. That's, yeah. So funny enough that you say that. In part 2, we kind of have to, I think in this prologue, one of the things I want to talk about are like, what are the presuppositions we have going forward here? And one is going to be literally what you just said, that like we do actually want to reach our goals, you know? Like identifying and pursuing our goals can't just be about, you know, hoping that we reach this goal in like 50 years. Like we're trying to pursue, and, you know, we're trying to make these things happen. It's not going to be like I mean, that said, in part 3, we're going to talk about how effective goals that like almost never end are for your mental health. Like if you have a goal that you could keep moving the goalpost on, like that's perfect. You know, goals that you hit and then you're done, like that's a bummer, because once you're done the goal, you lose all the mental health positives of the goal itself. So you really want to find goals that are never ending in that way, and perfect ways to go about that is to take up an identity as a goal. So to be a moral person, or to be healthy, and so then you don't have an end point. You're always working towards that ideal. Okay. Feel free to scrape my book. Absolutely. Have you read Reasons and Persons? I've not. Maybe you should. Reasons and Persons. Parfit, 1984, a landmark book in moral philosophy that challenges core beliefs about rationality. Okay, let's get this in our part 3 graveyard of notes that we'll eventually read in a year and a half or so. Thank you very much for the recommendation. Okay. Having the goal of reaching your goal sounds like a tautology, right? Maybe the term well-being confuses things, but that sounds like well-being again to me. Right? Oh, I see. Yeah. So that's one of the things we're gonna have to do. We're gonna have to really like dive into what well-being might mean. Like, you know, like what kind of emotions are we actually looking at? Because well-being can that's kind of like a blanket phrase. Sacrifice well-being so that you get more well-being. right? It's more like sacrifice. Well, yeah, what would it be? I don't know. It's like almost like a sacrifice, like physical and emotional well-being for the sake of like more high-level well-being. I'm not sure. That seems like a very weird requirement. Yeah, I think it's fair to align well-being with utility. The thing is, both of those terms are subjective. So you, okay. I need to want all my goals. No, not necessarily. Yeah, I'm not going to be that you know, stringent about what I just said. I'm probably going to just say like the idea here is that the goal is something that you would like to, I don't know, pursue at least to make progress on. I'm not sure. I'll have to think about that. I'm actually going to save that for like maybe the end. I need to want all my goals. That probably suffers from a lot of the problems of desire, satisfaction, theory of well-being. Right. You want to reach your goal by analytic truth. It's definitional. Right. Listen, at the end of the day, it's the end of the day. So at the end of the day, the goal is at the end. Hell yeah. And it's also, as you said, it's the end of the day. It's the end of the stream. I got to actually end. Oh no, there is even a paradox. Oh no. I have to read everything. Sacrifice well-being because the alternative is where did the what happened to the text on screen? What happened to our chat on the screen? There's even a paradox here to sacrifice well-being because the alternative is not preferable. So even the nobility of sacrifice well-being is gratifying in a way that affects well-being. Right. No, I agree. I think well-being and utility are basically trying to capture the same thing, but utility is usually used in a certain context. It's usually quantified, where well-being may not be. Right, like utility. Usually we have to like interpret in some more concrete way. Where well-being, it really comes down to whether you feel like it's almost like a survey. Like, do you feel like your life is meaningful right now, or did you feel like today was a meaningful day? And like that can literally be just that's like the only criteria there. You don't have to make it any more concrete than that. I couldn't handle my way, but there it is. I just think the text was too long. Oh, I see. Okay. It's only showing you, Onion, not anyone else. All right. Thank you all for chilling today. Thanks for helping me discover the mystery of whatever that guy's name was, Krieger. And have a good